Next, we will build the functionalities for our shops page. So looking back at our mockup, there are two major functions for our shops uh, section. So we have the shops list page wherein it will list all of our shops in our database, and it has like a toolbar here with add, filter, and then pagination controls. And the other one is the shops or shop details page wherein we can add, edit, or delete a shop detail. Okay. So first we will work on our shop details page. So let's head back to our IDE, and then in our pages, let's right click on it, pages folder, select add, and then new folder. Let's name this shops. And in this folder again, we will right click on it and then select add and then Blazor component. Okay. Let's name this as details. Okay. So after that, once we have our initial details Razor component, this time around we will be doing code behind file, okay, a separate code behind file. If you have, or if you can remember previously from when we worked on our manufacturer's page, it was only a single Razor file. So a quick look on our manufacturer's page, it has only a single file wherein all of our template code and our code behind is in a single file or single place. Okay, this time around we will do two separate files. The first one would be the template file, which is within our details.razor file, and then the other one would be a code behind file. Okay, so to do that, we will right click on our shops folder again, select add, and then class, and then after that, we will name it as details.razor.cs. Now you have to take note that for a code behind to become part of a Razor component, you have to name it like this. So name of the component itself, and then you add or append the .cs file. I mean file name or extension. Okay, let's select add. And then if you look at our solution explorer, just right under the shops folder, and then details.razor component, you can immediately see that the one we just added, the class file, it went under the details.razor component file. Okay, and we have to modify a bit our class here, so we need to uh, set it as partial class. Okay, so now this would become a pair of files for your Razor component, the template file itself and then the code behind file. So whatever logic that we will add to our code, it will be within this partial class. Okay, so next would be, since this is a routable component, we'll need to add the page directive. Let's set this as shops, and then for now let's just set it as a fixed parameter of 0. So let's try running this one, see if we can navigate to it. So see if we can actually navigate to this uh, page. So let me pull up our application. Okay, if we head to our address bar and we'll type, let's type shop/0, then yeah, we should be directed to that page. As for now, it's still empty. Then we will add the rest of the code here. Okay, but it confirms that now we can route to this or navigate to this page. So let's close that one up, and then let's move on through the rest of the code. But prior to that, we'll need to set up our EF core. Okay, so this time around, we will be again just like with what we did with the manufacturer's page, we will also have to set up our entities that would become or hold data for our shops or shop details. So let's right click on our entities folder, select add, and then select class, and then this for this one, let's name it as shop. Okay, add. Now we have our shop class. So for this one, we'll just add several properties to it. Okay, so looking at our mockup, it has four input fields. So the shop name, address, phone, and contact person. So that will be what we will add to this class. Okay, so again, we have our basic properties here. Most of them are strings. And then you might have noticed that these two remaining or two other properties here I have indicated this as a nullable property, which means that it we don't we don't require the user to input a value for this one. Okay, so that would also mean that entity framework can figure out that if it's generating the migrations and then the necessary column properties for this, it would indicate that this would be nullables, or it would allow null values for these uh, columns, okay, when you put data into it, like creating new record or editing, right? So next up would be, again, we'll have to uh, set up our context for that, since we have added a new template, I mean new entity. So for EF core to make use of that, we will not add another uh, dbset property here. Dbset of type shop. Then let's name it shops. And then after that, we'll have to set up our migration. Okay. So let's create a migration for this one so that we can generate the table. So again, we head out to our package manager console, and then we will issue a add migration command, and then let's name this as create shops table. Okay. Let's hit enter, and then it would EF core will build your migration for you, right? So now we have here the generated migration. So if we inspect or look at the columns that is to be created, so you have again your ID, which is of type SQLite auto increment. Yeah, if you can remember, auto increment is where an ID or a number gets added one every time a new record is added. And again, you have the name, which is of type text. And then here you can see that from our shop entity, we have these two properties wherein it's nullable. So the migration has also determined that it would be nullable, or would allow null values, which is set to true as compared to these other fields here or columns that are required to have values in it prior to getting saved on the database. Okay. So now let's update our database by issuing a update database command, right? Let's hit enter, and then it would get updated, or the table will be created on Sqlite. So let's open our DB browser. Let's inspect our database. Let's check. Is it this one? Okay. So now you have, or as you can see, you have our shops table here being created. Again, if you browse the data, you'll have an empty shops table since we have not yet added data to it. Okay, uh, EF core is set up. Next would be we will be having the UI, actual UI itself, since we have left that off because we've diverted to setting up our EF core. So let's close the rest of this, including our entities, and then let's head back to our template page. So give me a sec, right? So now I will add code, our template code. All right. So let's go through this things that you might have noticed is different. So now in our at page directive, we have added this kind of format. So now this is what you call a parameter, okay? Which indicates also the type of the parameter, which is of type int or a number. Okay, you can add strings or any other data type. But yeah, you can have, simply for this one, you can have an integer of type ID. I mean, a parameter of ID of type int or integer. And then we have also added a page title. And then here we have some logic of when our model, we will do this late next on our code behind, but yeah, just ignore the squiggly lines for now. So the logic here is that if our model is empty or null, then we shouldn't be displaying anything, but instead we'll just show a alert or a simple message that shop is not found. All right, and then inside of this is now we have our actual form. So from this mockup, we have input fields for the three fields. So this is uh, this part. This time around we have used mud form, and then we set the reference to this form variable, and then we have bound this to a the validity or the validation data is form valid. We have mapped this into this variable in our code behind. We'll get to that soon. And then these are the four fields that we have added here. So all of them are just text fields. So for capturing the name, the address, the phone, and then the contact person. So since the two items are required, or the two fields are required, that would be the name and the address, we have also a simple validation attribute or parameter that we have set for this uh, text field. Okay, so we have indicated required is equal to true. With the other two fields that are not required, we have not placed that. So validation would only occur for name and address. Okay, so now let's go to its code behind, and let's add our code here. Okay, let's remove this one. Paste in our code. Right. Okay, so now let's give it some time for the IDE to gather all of its data, and then the squiggly lines will be removed. Okay, now we have two things again that we have forgotten. Uh, this one we are using a uh, model class for this component, just like we did with uh, the manufacturer. Sorry, but with the manufacturers, we didn't have any uh, model or view model class of some sort. So this time around, it's complaining about shop details that is missing here. So let's add that one. Let's right click on our project, and then let's add a new folder. Let's name it models. Now, this models folder will hold the sort of like a view model classes for our uh, components. Okay, if you are familiar with MVC or MVVM, wherein a view has some sort of backing model or class, then this is what we're trying to do here. So on our models folder. Let's right click and select add, and then select class. Then we'll name this as shop details. Okay, so with our shop details, we will have properties that sort of like mirrors the shop entity. Okay, but isn't exactly a entity. It's just for holding data for our views. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go back, and then as you can see, have the errors have disappeared since we have added the uh, model class. So now this will hold all the data for our uh, page or component within this Razor template. Okay. Again, we have also several other dependencies that we have injected: snack bar, the dialog service, navigation, and then the data context, which is what we need for the actual uh, the actual data uh, actions or services that we need for this one. Okay, let's try running this one, that we can see that how we could deal with this, or it would look like. Okay, so let's navigate to slash shops, let's say some number like that. Okay, and now you can see that our template logic, that if there's no data for this one, then it would just show this message that is shop not found. Okay, now let's head on to our actual page. So if we navigate to 0, which means there's nothing, this indicates that it's for a new data or new shop detail. So now we have our form. So if you look back at our mockup here, like, yeah, we're trying to uh, make it as close as possible to our mockup. And then now what we have is this one. So we have shop name, fields, and then the 4 fields. Yeah. Now you might have noticed that as I've uh, navigated through each of these fields, that the 2 fields for the shop name and then the address has shown a sort of a warning or error message that it is required. So that is what we have hooked up in our entity framework, and also in our template, which is that we have set it as required. So yeah, if try refresh this one, and if you click save, then yeah, the validation would still kick in. So let's go through the save function. So with the save function, this is what we did. So save function is we go through this save async method. And so we have here, prior to saving the data, we did a validate for, we've called the validate method of our form. The form is in reference to our mud form, okay, which is this one. Okay, and so going back, if it's not valid, which is this one, is form not valid, or I mean, if it's valid, then we can save. Okay, so we've simplified the logic that only if it's valid, then we can actually save the data, which is this method, save shop details. So again, we're calling or creating a context, and then if the model ID is equal to 0, which is in this case our parameter 0, would indicate that it's a new entry or a new shop, and then we add it here, and then we finally commit it by calling save changes. And then if the new shop is new, it's not null, then we navigate, or sort of like a refresh, but without actually doing a uh, browser refresh, but we just change the navigation URL to its new ID. Okay, and then we show a small notification, a snack bar, in this case snack bar. Okay, and then all of this, we have wrapped this up in a try catch block, since there's no other way of error handling within Blazor. With Any errors, we just show again a snack bar of an error type. Okay, so that's for this one. uh, Also, let's forgot to mention that when the page is loaded, this is the logic. So on initialized, we override the uninitialized life cycle of a component. And then here, looking at our ID, so now we have this, if you notice, we have this parameter ID that is being mapped to our directive, page directive here. So this is now ID. This would map to this property of parameter type, okay, or parameter attribute. So it's case insensitive, all right? And then if it's uh, not 0, then we will load up the details of that shop. All right, and then this is the actual logic. So now here we'll just find the shop. If it's present, or if it's not null, then we return a shop detail model, the one that we just added. Or if it isn't, then we'll just return a null, which would show this. Okay, simple error message. Okay, so now we have that, and then the delete function is for this one. Okay, so with the delete function, we will ask the user if, or confirm if it really wants to delete it, and then if it does, then again you find the entity, and if it's present, then we remove it, and finally calling save changes to actually commit or do the deletion. And then we'll notify the user, and then we head back to our shops page or shops list page, which is, we'll do that later after this one. All right, so yeah, again, there's another logic that we have or missed to discuss is, if if you are on editing a shop detail, this would be the logic that will be called. All right, so this one is for saving a new shop detail, and then this one is for saving an existing shop detail. So first we will find the entity, and then we will set the values from our view model. Okay, and then again calling save changes. So if we go back to this one and let's test alpha 1, some location, then 6, Shando, and let's click save. All right, now we have our small notification here. Now if we inspect via DB browser, if we refresh this one, as you can see, we have successfully saved the data. Okay, now you've also noticed that part of the logic is the navigation would change to this uh, format. Now the ID has been appended, or instead of 0, it has replaced it with the ID that has been generated for this record. All right, now if we refresh, then it would just load back, since with our logic, from this one get shop details, then yeah, it would return. Right, simple, cool. Now if we delete this one, we can do that again. We have the confirmation, and then click OK. Oops, hit cancel, delete, click OK. Yep, since we have not yet created the shops page, it will just show you not found. But if we do inspect our DB browser, we refresh, then that data is gone, since we've actually deleted it. Right, so now that we have that, let's work on the shops list page. So let's stop this one for now, and then let's right click on our shops folder, then select add, and then a razor component. Then let's name this as shops. Okay, and then again we'll do a separate code behind file. Right click on the shops page, select add, and then class, naming it shops.razor.cs. And then set this as a partial class. And now we have our code behind under shops razor component. Right? Let's save this one. Okay. Now let's add the template code for our shops component. Okay. Let's add that one. Let's go back to our shops component. Okay. Then add this one. Okay. This might look quite a lot, but yeah, it's quite simple really. So again, we have set our directive since this is a routable component as shops, and then you have your page title, and then you have your toolbar wherein you can let's go back to our mockup. We have a button for adding the shop details and then filtering our list via the shop name, and then you have also the pagination controls. Okay, so this is the button for adding new record, and then you have your filter. So it's a text field that would search for shops, and then you have our pagination control, this one. Okay, and then you have your table that will list the shops. Okay, so let's add code for our code behind. Okay, so let's just remove all of this, replace it with this. Okay, now we will go through each of this again. Remove this unnecessary code. All right, so now uh, once we have our, okay, let's go through with the ones that we have here. So we have a list of shops. That this will become again our backing model for this view or this page. A list of shop details, and then we have several uh, variables here for storing data for our pagination control. So we have total pages. Page size by default is 10. Now you might have noticed that on our mockup we have not added a control for setting the page size. So just to simplify this one, but maybe on your own you can add another controller, a drop down would allow you to select the page size for your list, okay, or your tables. For me, I just set it as fixed 10 items per uh, page. Okay, and then your page, the current page that you are on. Okay, again, on the life cycle, we are putting it on initialize, wherein we will load the shops. Okay, so the method for that is this one. So by default, or we should have set this as the page would be initially as page 1, but we call it here as 1. Okay, fixed default value of 1. Okay, and then the search query would be empty by default since we're just loading the page initially. Okay, so now here, this is the query that we are running through to filter the data. So if there's a search query content here or data, then we will set the filter via a where link method. Okay, where is where you filter out data depending on your condition. So in this case, we are looking for just the name of the shop, and then we lowered it so that we can have a case insensitive search, and then that name would contain the search query that we're looking for. And then this is the actual query that will be run. So we have uh, two phases here. The first one is we skip to what index. Internally, we are skipping to what index? So in this case, we're setting it from the page. So since it's zero base, you have start from zero to at what number or page size. So in this case, you have 10 items per page. And then the logic of, yeah, you have this logic of actually skipping correctly to the correct index. And then taking 10 or taking a number of items from that. So in this case, we have page size set by 10. And then after that, we do a projection via the select method. So we pass in an expression of what we want to give back to our caller. So in this case, is shop details uh, data. And then to finally call to list. And then you have, that would be returned as the data for our shops. Now, we have also this total pages. So you might be wondering how we did the total pages. So this is it. So we run the same query, but instead of doing this one, we just count. Okay, we don't do, or we don't go through the filters that we've done here, but we just count all of the records. All right, and then we do some sort of division here, and then we only take the top value or the whole number, so that we can have, like, if there's 11 records, then you can have 2 pages. All right, so that's the logic of this one. Okay, then after that, the function for the delete. So in our toolbar, there's only there's only three, right? You have the button for adding, and then the text field, and then the pagination. And also we also have this function for deleting a record on the table itself. So this is the function for that. So we've added a button, and then we've attached the delete method to it. All right, so we click, if we navigate to that method, then this is the actual method itself. So it's much like the same as what we did on the detail page, right? We go back to the details one. Yeah, it's almost the same. Again, confirming if you want to delete the record, and then do the actual deletion. All right, okay, so with this one, you have done this one. Okay, so my mouse is acting up, so let's go back to trackpad. All right, so after we delete the record, then we show the user a notification of uh, the successful deletion, and then we load the shops. Okay, again, sort of like just refreshing the data on our table. All right, again, if you've noticed that the load shops, it's only calling the same thing or the same method, but with different parameters. Now you have the, when you navigate through the pagination controls, you have this one. You pass a query, and then including the search shops. All right, so let's try running this one, so that we can go through the functionalities of each. All right, let me pull this up again. Okay, so let's head to, since I forgot that since we've already added the shops page, we can just navigate through this via this one. So click shops, and then, yeah, we are going to be greeted with our shops list page. Now, since nothing is here yet, it's empty, then we just select add, and then let's say alpha 1, some location, then some phone. Let's try adding so that we have good visualization of data. Click save. All right, and then we go back to, or we can just click back, and then now we have our record. All right, you can also delete, or since let's try adding another one. Let's try alpha bravo. first, right? Okay, try adding some dummy data here. Click save. Let's head back. Okay, now let's try our search if this does actually work. Search Bravo. Let's click, and then yeah, you can actually filter or search for data. Nice. All right. Let's, if you just clear this one out and then click on this one, we have not actually implemented the like uh, filter as you type, because that would, yeah, complicate things. But you can also do that if you wanted to. Maybe if you can experiment with our with this project, then yeah, you can surely do that. Okay, you can also delete via this one, delete, and then click OK, then it will be gone. If you refresh, yeah, so the delete function works for this one. All right. So I have added some additional data to our shops uh, table, so that you can have an idea of how it would look like, or how the pagination would work. So now we have quite a lot of data already here, that if you go through the different numbers or page through this one, then you can see that it navigates through the list via pagination, right? Including this arrow. Okay, you can also do search this one, yeah, including this search would also paginate. Okay, so yeah, so this one uh, shows that how the pagination would make sense. Okay, so I have skipped the boring part of building the vehicles page features or functions. So yeah, because it's exactly the same as the one we just did on the shops, with just a few things to take note of. All right, so here I've already have our vehicles page or vehicles list page, and then from here again you have the same functionality as the one that we have on the shops section. So again, you can add, search, and then paginate through the records. And so if you look at this one, click on that. Now there's one thing that we have added here, a new control, is this manufacturer list. So if you select on manufacturer, it allows you to choose from the manufacturer's list. Okay, so how did I hook that up, okay, or use that control? So if we head to our template, this is our template, and then this is the mud select that we control that we have used. So in this case, let's see, so equals this, okay, right? So now we have here the manufacturer. So you have used mud select, and then inside of it we have the mud select items for each of the manufacturers. So again, it's very simple. In our code here, we've included a query to our manufacturers list. So on our on initialized method here, we first gather all of our manufacturers from this line of code coming from this method, which is here. So in this case, we have created another context, and then we've queried all of our manufacturers. And then instead of using a some sort of view model or backing model for this one, I simply used a key value pair, and then we would end up with a list of key value pairs, since it's very simple structure, an ID and a name. So that's the only thing that you'd need for your mud select. All right, so now I set that up as a this one. So for whenever a user selects a item on the on here, then it would select or set the manufacturer ID for the model of this uh, of this record. All right. Then we display the item via setting the value to the key, which is the ID, and then the value is the text or the name of the manufacturer. So simple as that. All right. And if you are curious as to what the uh, migration have become, it's almost like the same as the one on the shops, but the additional thing is that it now also has generated a code for creating a foreign key. So if you are like familiar with SQL and then the different uh, relationships that you can have between data, you have the one to one, one to many. So in this case, you have uh, on the on the model, or on our entity, we have this set or property for manufacturer ID, and then for us to have a link to a sort of one-to-one relationship between a vehicle and a manufacturer. So since a vehicle would require a manufacturer, or would like be, at most would need a at least a manufacturer. So we have set this navigation entity, okay, or navigation property that would allow us to pull data straight from the manufacturer, okay, instead of us going through the usual querying via relationships, via the joins, and all of those complicated stuff, right? So yeah, so basically looking at the structure that has been, the structure of the vehicle stable, yeah, it's much like the shops, but you have this foreign key added to it. So if we check the modify here, you can see the details of it. So you have, aside from the primary key, you have also a constraint that is added, the foreign key. So the foreign key would reference the manufacturer's table via its ID, and then it will get hooked up to the manufacturer ID. Okay, but this one would end up like 0 or 1, or which means that it isn't really required unless you set it as uh, strictly one-to-one. Okay, so yeah, forgive me with my knowledge on database theory, but yeah, that's how it goes. So yeah, most of the functionalities are here. Add, can also delete. Okay, then yeah, much like the shops that we have. So we just skipped all of this part. So again, don't worry, I will put up the code for all of this. All right. Finally, let's work on the home page. So going back to our uh, mock-up. So with the home page, we have two sections. So the one on the left is a simple line chart that displays the daily repair cost for the last 7 days, and then on the right is a table for the last top 5 vehicles repair cost for the last 7 days. So let's do that now. So this is our home page for now. So let's add a code behind for our home page by adding a code behind file. So again, naming it home.razor.cs, and then changing it into a partial class. Okay, so now let's uh, work on the template. So with the template, let's add this one. All right, and on the code behind, let's add this one. So this won't be that much. Okay, see, let's add it like this. Okay, now we still have some missing pieces here. We need to have this vehicle repair cost sum a class. So that would fall under the models. So let's add a model for that. Let's name it vehicle repair cost sum. Okay, let's add properties to it. So it will be simple properties consisting of name, value, and cost. The name of the vehicle, the value of the vehicle, and then the total cost. All right. So let's quickly run this and see how it would look like. I don't know if I have this data correctly, but let's try. Okay, so now it's doesn't look good. So let me just quickly modify some data here since our dates are quite uh, not like quite far off. So let's set make it close. Apply changes this one. Set this as say it to no 00321. Apply this one. 24 320. Apply this one. Set it 0 0. Set it in. Finally this one, let's set it to 4. Set 18. Apply and then write changes. Let's see. All right, now that looks better. So we have here cost, then we have our graph here, and then you have top 5 vehicles. So how did we end up with uh, this? Okay, so we have used a mud chart control. So with mud chart, you have to set its type, which is in this case is line. So I have several options for that. So if we like quickly pull up the browser and head into mudblazor.com and let's check the options for MudBlazor chart components. So you have here components and let's see charts. So with charts, you have several options. So you have okay here. So you have let's just go through this one. You have bar chart, you have donut, line chart, the one that we have or we have used on our homepage, and then you pie chart, and then a stack bar chart. So these are your options for using a chart. And then part of that is you need to set the data for that, which in this case is via the chart series. Then we set the series for that. Let's go through what that series would look like or data would look like. So you need to have this chart series, and then part of that is also setting the labels for the different axes. So you have this x-axis label. So you have this one. Now this is part of this the example, but I have x-axis. I have set this as here. So just ignore this for a moment because this was part of the example that I was trying to work on previously. So let's focus on the on initialized method. So we have here two methods for setting up our home page. That's two sections of our home page. So the left one would be the chart. So daily repair cost chart. This is the method. So now we've populate our data. So first is we look for the last 7 days starting from the current day, and then you count the number of days backwards up to the 7 days previously, and then we query the data for the repairs. So here we have set or we gather all the repairs from the current date to the last 7 days. Okay, and then we order them by the date, since this is like sorted from the most recent to the oldest to the most recent, and then we group them by date. Okay, so now everything is grouped by date. So now with that thing that we have done there, we can now summarize or create a sum of the values of the repair cost for each of the day. Okay, so in this way, and then I think that's pretty much what the chart would need. Okay, so we add it as a series here, chart series, and then the data, set the data, and then that's how you would end up with the chart. Okay, this is now the chart. And then for the table on the right, you have top 5 vehicles for the last 7 days. So again, it's just a simple table, but how we pull that data is through this one. Let's remove this. So now again, querying the repairs, and then we have this include vehicle, so that we can have data from the vehicle that will be displayed under this vehicle and value columns, right? Since the repair only doesn't, I mean, the repair only has the vehicle ID. So for that to get included queried as part of this query, then we need to have this include method, and then EF core will take care of handling of pulling the related data to that. So again, we've filtered it within the last 7 days, and then this time around, we've grouped it by vehicle, by the vehicle ID. And then after that, we've projected it into this class, the class that we just added a while ago, the vehicle repair cost sum. Okay, so we indicated the name, and then the vehicle, and then the total cost would be the sum of the amount or the repair cost for each of the vehicle, right? And then uh, we've ordered it by descending, which means from the highest cost to the lowest, and then we only take or get the 5 of it instead of returning the entire list if it has quite a lot of data that is getting pulled. So we only take 5, sort of like a top 5, all right? And then we bring it at back as a list, and then we show it as a table. So that's it. Yeah, it's not that quite difficult really. So you'd end up with this homepage, all right? So now our vehicle repair tracker application is complete. I think that, yeah, I guess you still have some, if you have some ideas regarding this one, maybe you can experiment on your own what things that you could improve on this one, right? Maybe add some additional data here, or add additional fields in your repairs, vehicles, shops, or manufacturers, right? But yeah, pretty much this is the final result of this project. Okay, then you have the manufacturers. We started from the manufacturers and then worked our way backwards, since uh, these are the initial requirements so that we can build upon on the repairs. Okay, since the repairs need like vehicle and shop, and then manufacturers, then yeah, we need to do that in that kind of way. All right, so yeah, so I guess this concludes our uh, episode for this one, the vehicle repair tracker, from an Excel template into a Blazor application. So I hope you have learned something from this one, and yeah, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and yeah, we'll do more projects like this one in the future. And yeah, hope I could find another more interesting uh, templates that we could use to build upon as a Blazor application. So yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, thank you everyone, and yeah, thank you for joining us, and you will see you again next time here on Code Skwela. Thank you.